I think Oda's planning one on us, guys. We all think that we know how it's going to play out, how the factions will fight and fall, but more and more I think not. That's just Oda's MO, and you best be prepared. Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, today I want to talk about the nature and significance of the marine organization called SWORD. So if you guys don't know what I'm talking about or you don't recall this, we learned of the marine organization SWORD in some of the recent One Piece chapters. X-Drake and Kobe are members, and that's all we know. And so because we know essentially nothing at all, there may be many questions about various things relating to SWORD that you'd want to ask. But at the forefront for me, is why does SWORD exist? What are their goals? And what has Oda planned for that organization in the story? Because assuredly, they do not just exist to exist. So let's begin this video with a speculation which I believe demonstrates a point I would like to make. We do not know a single fact for sure about the history of SWORD, but there is a popular speculation that Admiral Akainu was previously a member of some kind. We actually see Akainu in a cover story without his shirt, and on his right arm, very clearly, we can see a sword, like an actual sword, swing sword tattoo. It honestly appears random to me, aside from the connection to SWORD, the organization. This obviously isn't confirmation of his involvement with them, but given Oda's track record of very obscure, small detail foreshadowing, this could definitely be a clue. Now guys, full disclosure, it's been several months since the reveal of SWORD, and I still haven't made a video about it until this one, so I decided to watch a few discussions that came up first through the YouTube search to figure out what other people are saying. And without fail, it appears that nobody believes that Akainu was ever a member of SWORD, regardless of this possible hint. It's mentioned, yeah, there's a little bit of discussion on it for sure, but ultimately they spent their time arguing about the aspects of Akainu's character or the reliability of the evidence itself, which can allow them or you to dismiss the speculation. Akainu being a part of SWORD doesn't seem to fit the narrative. But here I think that people are already making an important assumption, one that I don't necessarily agree with. SWORD has to be the good guys in every way, right? Where the world government and the Marines have failed before, SWORD will not. They are the ideal that the Marines should be striving for, right? I mean, yeah, maybe it's true, but not necessarily. What do we really know about SWORD? Again, we only know of two members as of right now, X-Drake and Kobe. There are definitely more, and obviously there are many speculations out in the community, but as for what is confirmed, this is it. But knowing of only these two, there is already something worth thinking on here. X-Drake, a man who has lived as a pirate for 3 years and been subordinate to Kaido for about 2. Despite being a marine, exactly how many innocent people has X-Drake been forced to harm or kill to maintain his cover? Law even poses this question to X-Drake and Sabaody, and I think that there are two ways that you could take this. On one hand, people prefer to believe that X-Drake hasn't harmed anyone. And that is what Law is implying here. Law hinting that he knows of X-Drake's allegiance by implying he knows Drake hasn't killed anyone. But on the other hand, how many people have you really killed? As a Marine, as a force of justice, what has Drake done to sell his new identity as a pirate? Remember, it seems his goal all along was to join Kaido in order to spy from within that crew. He has to sell that. What has he done, and how heavily does that weigh on his mind? If SWORD thinks that they will be able to infiltrate dangerous and violent pirate crews while not being dangerous and violent themselves, I think that that's a little naive and unrealistic. This is the nature of being a double agent. And in the real world, things like this happen. You follow your moral code as best as you can, but circumstances can and will present themselves when you may be forced to break it. I think X-Drake even comments on this a little bit in his conversation with Kobe. Kobe confirms to Drake that the Marines will not be intervening between Big Mom and Kaido in Wano. They just do not have the manpower. And Drake says this out loud, and it almost seems like he's trying to reassure himself of the morality of his actions. He says, well, Wano isn't a member of the world government, so that's for the best then. Essentially here, he's admitting that he expects the people of Wano to continue to suffer, whether it be because of a fight of Big Mom and Kaido, or both of their oppression over the country. It's, well, they're not a member of the world government, so they can suffer. I'm not responsible for them. He's trying so hard to convince himself that what he is doing is right. That it's okay to leave the people of Wano to suffer, despite being innocent. I mean, just take a moment to compare Luffy versus Sword in this case. Sword stands for everything right, everything that the Marines should become. Yeah, no? Luffy in here and immediately recognizes that he needs to fight for these people. Luffy here is obviously the hero. X-Drake is something else. Sword is something else. Akainu follows absolute justice, and what this means, while in a way defined, is somewhat open to interpretation. Oniguma tells us this: absolute justice is a willingness to sacrifice anything to defeat what is defined as evil. And we see this in action many times, doing things that are obviously against the law, against most moral compass, for the sake of winning. In particular, Oniguma tells us this as they are carrying out a buster call in Eni's lobby, where there are not only pirates and criminals, but innocent government officials and Marines as well. The ends justify the means, as they say. Killing thousands of innocents is, quote, worth it if you defeat the Straw Hat Pirates. We also have several examples from Akainu himself, which are much the same. He cared not if the majority of Ohara was innocent of crimes, and he cared not if they deserved due process. Given the opportunity, he killed them all for the sake of defeating the harm that he thought some of them could cause in the future. Again, in Marineford, Akainu would not rest until all of the pirates, all of the evil was exterminated, even if that meant that many more innocent Marines would die after the battle was decided. Akainu's official brand of justice is called thorough justice. So what does this tell us? What does this explain? In simple, general terms, absolute justice by definition and by action within the story means killing innocents, in most cases, in order to ensure you defeat and destroy what you consider to be evil completely. So what's the point? Well, based on my logic from before, that is not all that different conceptually than what Sword is doing right now. The government is striking a balance with pirates. They aren't actively trying to exterminate them. Under certain circumstances, they allow them to live, mostly free to do as they would please. They essentially quarantined off the New World as a lawless area and just let it be. Certainly, Akainu is extreme, dogmatic, and ruthless, more so than most other Marines or people. If he was involved in Sword or any organization like this, he would take it to another level. Yet still at its core, what Sword is doing is likely the very same thing. Individuals such as X-Drake are probably, quote, doing what it takes to defeat evil. If that means intentionally taking an innocent life now and again when it's unavoidable, I imagine he would do so and find some way to justify it or rationalize it, or even turning the other way when you know innocents are being harmed. Absolute justice isn't about following the letter of the law. It's about winning and achieving some sort of greater good at the expense of whatever or whoever. That is exactly what X-Drake is doing. I had a theory a long time ago that's mostly been confirmed, that X-Drake's father was a double agent just like him. That theory was actually about arguing that X-Drake himself was a double agent, which is confirmed. But anyway, Sengoku tells us in a conversation with Law of 4 things that were lost on the day that Corazon died. Corazon himself, the Opi Opi no Mi, the boy Corazon was protecting, and the Barrel's pirates. One thing here does not fit. All of these things are important to the Marines or Sengoku himself. The Opi Opi no Mi, obviously. Corazon was important to Sengoku, and because Corazon was important to him, then Law was important as well. So why are the Barrel's pirates important? Why were they lost? You would think that Sengoku would be somewhat happy with this. Although he didn't get the fruit, the pirates who tried to extort the government for funds by selling it to them are defeated and gone. But no, they're lost. I believe that this line suggests that Diaz Barrels was still working for the Marines, just like Corazon and just like Drake. He infiltrated the pirate world under orders. So his death was a loss to the Marines. That is how they set up this deal for the Opi Opi no Mi, even while Doflamingo comments that this pirate is an idiot, he doesn't know the value of that devil fruit. I think that he knew the value really well. He knew that the Marines wanted it badly. And so he acquired it and set up a meeting to give it to them. Under orders, but in a way that would not raise any suspicion. So yeah, I think that you can probably gather here. I think that Corazon and Diaz-Barrels were members of SWORD. Going undercover in the pirate world is something SWORD members we know do, and it would be interesting if this was a kind of hint, or, a tell of who is a member or who's not. Is it a normal practice for the Marines to send agents within pirate crews in order to gather intelligence and do whatever else? Or is this something that SWORD specifically does? My guess is it's just SWORD, and if the government wanted to send agents within pirate crews, they would send agents of Cypherpole, just as we have seen in the Underworld. The Marines are not an intelligence organization. They're just the hammer. It's actually better that they know less. So assuming this to be true, I think interestingly here we have a little snapshot of what Diaz-Barrels had to become in order to infiltrate the pirate world. And in SBS Oda tells us this. His father, Barrels, used to be a Marine officer, and Drake admired this, dreaming of becoming a great Marine just like him one day. However, who knows what happened, but his father suddenly turned into a pirate and became a terrible man who would physically abuse even his own son. This, I think, proves my point. This is doing what it takes in order to defeat evil. This is also what being in SWORD sometimes demands in order to accomplish whatever their goals are. But at this point in the video, it's not really about proving or specifically arguing that Akainu must have been in SWORD. I know it comes off of that way, but for now I'm just trying to illustrate a point which hopefully gets us a little bit closer to a conclusion for the specific nature and goals of the organization SWORD. Just as with the entirety of the Marines in general, SWORD can have what we would define as good or bad characters. I think it would make sense either way. So let's get to the point. What is the purpose of SWORD? I think that it's something like this. SWORD exists to allow the Marines to fight the battles that they currently cannot. At the most base level possible, SWORD exists to circumvent the authority of the Celestial Dragons, the Gorosei, and Emu. I think that it's very important that we know X-Drake is a member of SWORD, and what is X-Drake's mission? What is SWORD's mission? To infiltrate the Pirate Kaido. We've also deduced that this might be a common thing that SWORD does. They insert Marines into pirate organizations, such as Corazon and Diaz-Barrels as well. So SWORD has an interest in pirates. I think that this is very important. SWORD is likely being kept secret, hidden from the pirates, the government, Cypherpole nobles, and everybody else. The reason I believe this is pretty simple. X-Drake saw CP0 cut a deal with Orochi, Kaido, and Wano. CP0 obviously does not want their actions getting out to the other factions within the government for very obvious reasons, so if they knew that Drake was a double agent, they would have avoided or distracted him. They did not, and I assume it's because they didn't know. If CP0 does not know, the government at large does not know. CP0 is the premier intelligent organization of the world government. I doubt there is much that they are not aware of. That's my logic here. So whatever SWORD is doing is likely not with permission from anybody outside of SWORD. Why would this be necessary? Why are Marines here essentially taking the job of Cypherpole? We see this implied at several points in the story. The Marines are frustrated that they cannot do more to stop pirates. By following the context clues over several hundreds of chapters, it becomes apparent that the Marines do not often engage the Yonko or their affiliated or allied crews in the New World. And even if they do, it is not for the purpose of defeating them. The world government, for the most part, leaves pirates alone in the New World. This is why before the time skip, Marineford faced Paradise, the first half of the Grand Line. The battle was fought attempting to stop pirates from getting to the New World in the first place. Once there, they were essentially ignored, to either be defeated by other pirates or recruited onto crews. The same concept could be applied to the Shichibukai in the past. The government legally allowed them to exist, and the Marines could not do a thing about it, regardless of what they might have done. For many years, the Marines have not been allowed to defeat the evil of this world, to defeat pirates. At least not completely. Obviously, we're talking about this in past tense because Marineford has changed, But you look at the person responsible for changing the location of Marine headquarters now facing the New World, Akainu, and maybe we should be asking some questions. If you actually want to make the world safer, absolute justice or not, there is no way that this could satisfy you. This does not just apply to Akainu, this applies to many others. Aokiji says this at the end of the Punk Hazard arc. I never thought that the world government was the end all be all. You don't have to be affiliated with the Marines to accomplish things in this world, and there are some things that you can only see when you remain independent. This tells us what we already know. There is a lot Marines do not know or is hidden from them. In many cases, they are specifically lied to. How much in the news is covered up and how much of it is actually reported to all of the Marines? In essence, they are the good soldiers. They take orders and they do as they are told. When they act independently, such as X-Drake with Sword, or Aokiji, who may also be a covert member of Sword as well, there's a lot that they can accomplish and discover. This is why Sword exists. This is why they need to circumvent the authority of the government and the nobles. It's so that the Marines can stay on the attack, Sword, regardless of what their orders may be. I don't think that Sword exists to create balance between the pirate world and the world government. Sword exists to crush evil. And so in order to do this, the world government, world nobles, and the Gorosei are in the way. I also think that it's important here to connect this to other theories and speculations. I don't believe Imu and the Gorosei actually want to defeat the pirates. Not completely. They fear pirates, yes, but they also fear creating the Pirate King. Their goal is balance, both between the government and pirates and between the pirates themselves. I believe that they attempt to use pirates. Obviously so with the Shichibukai, but less obviously Whitebeard, Shanks, Kaido, and Big Mom act as obstacles, barriers to prevent someone from rising above them and conquering the New World and potentially bringing the pirate world together. If you remove the pirates from the New World, you are making it a much easier path to adventure and discover rogue poneglyphs, find Laugh-Tale, and uncover the truths. I think that they selectively pick out pirates that they feel are the real danger, people like Ace, Luffy, or Blackbeard. And as we learned recently, perhaps they fear the return or birth of Joy Boy. The other pirates, the ones that they don't think have this potential, they are mostly left alone in the New World as kind of guardians of Laugh-Tale. Their existence here prevents other pirates and even other adventurers from straying where they should not. I think that this is relevant, guys, because the Marines would not know this. It would never be explained to them in this way. The Gorosei and Imu are secretive. All the Marines would know is that they aren't allowed to fight, barring certain circumstances, or there's things that they just cannot do. And I think that it would frustrate them. I think, as Aokiji suggests, there's a certain freedom to becoming independent. It might, in fact, motivate them to take justice into their own hands, or acquire intel on their own. And guys, I know that we have been talking about pirates exclusively here, but another important organization is the black market and the underworld. This one is kind of deep, very deep, because the Celestial Dragons and Cypherpole are actively a part of this. Stussy, a member of CP0, is actually one of the emperors of the underworld. The world government purchases weapons from Doflamingo and Kaido. Do you think that the government is trying to destroy the underworld? No, they're not. They benefit from it. They are a part of it. In several cases, they use the underworld for some objective of their own. The Marines, however, again, they would not know this. They would only have a feeling, some understanding that there is limits to what they can actually do. This would only inspire them to undermine the authority from those above. Just the same. And here I think that we can start to put some pieces together. We in fact see the Revolutionary Army follow the same path. Joker is connected to Kaido. We know that the Marines had an in with Doflamingo's crew and Corazon. Through him, they could probably discover many nefarious things that were taking place in the underworld. Connection, people. We know that over 20 years ago, Orochi set about in creating weapons factories in Wano. We also know within relatively the present storyline, that these weapons were sent to Doflamingo, who then sent them to buyers. You kind of wonder if maybe this is what inspired them to set their sights on Kaido. And maybe this has been a very long endeavor to get a Marine within Kaido's organization to discover what exactly he's doing and the nature of the Underworld itself. The Sword exists to circumvent the authority of the world nobles in Gorosei. I see some people take this one step further, but to me it's important that we do not. People are saying Sword exists for the Marines to take down the government or discover their secrets. Essentially, they are trying to bring down the Celestial Dragons, and I do not think that is true, at least not yet. When Drake discovers CP0 meeting with Orochi and Kaido, he honestly appears shocked. What he saw, he was not expecting. I don't think that this was ever about opposing the government specifically. This was just about fighting evil, and only now are they beginning to discover the real evil behind the curtain. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be taken further. This is going to snowball. The dominoes will fall one after another. Sword is going to learn more. The government secrets will get out, and the only reasonable conclusion is that this will lead to mutiny of at least some Marines. But who that is or will be and to what extent matters. And obviously what they will do with this information. And so this leads us back to Akainu. Okay, so Akainu being a member of Sword does matter. Matters a lot. He is the de facto face of the Marines, and if not the most powerful man, he is certainly the most important. How do you think Akainu would react if he was to discover these secrets? Will he hide these truths for the greater good of the Marines and the world, or will he strike down evil at all costs once discovered? What is absolute justice? A willingness to sacrifice anything to defeat what is defined as evil. The government has been protecting pirates. They have been dealing with them, corroborating. They have their hands deep within the black market. In fact, I'd guess that they are the majority of the black market itself. Akainu cannot ignore them. To Akainu, they would be evil incarnate. Akainu possesses a lot of pride. How the Marines are perceived is important to him. Once Akainu discovers these truths, I personally believe that he would do what he believes is best for the Marines in the world. He will utterly destroy what he defines as evil. It is not as though he likes the Gorosei. In fact, the last time that we see Akainu and the Gorosei interact, Akainu is arguing with them. He doesn't like that they undermine his authority, and in turn they insult and demean him. Is Oda setting up conflict? These are Akainu's actual words to the Gorosei upon learning that CP0 has interfered with Doflamingo. If something like this ever happens again, it'll bring shame on me as a fleet admiral. Don't ever do that again on any account. I don't know about you guys, but I think that they are. And here we have Akainu's reaction. If Akainu turns out to be a member of Sword, it becomes more than just a few select Marines or a segment of the Marines rebelling against the government. It potentially becomes the whole organization. Martial law. Akainu doesn't have to be a member of Sword, but I think that that will certainly expedite the process. But anyway, many may not like Akainu, but I think that he is consistent. He does a lot of bad things, but it's all in the pursuit of destroying evil. His number one objective, defeat the bad guys totally and completely. If Cypherpole in the government's place in the black market is revealed, Akainu won't care about protecting the world from war. He won't care if innocents die or whatever chaos follows from this. He will attack and he will destroy completely. I hope I made that clear. This, I believe, is the purpose of Sword in the story. Their place within the narrative, to set in motion these events. Regardless of their intentions, they've stumbled upon the Celestial Dragons, the world governments, and the Gorosei's greatest secret that they would go to any lengths to cover up. That will have a profound effect. If you guys haven't watched my 50-minute Void Century theory, I suggest that you do. It'll be in the description. To some, this may not make sense, I understand, but my endgame here is that the government's stability is important to the world's protection. The government protects the world from pirates. Even as the government represents the evils of this world, they do a lot to stop a worse outcome. At some point, the government will crumble to pieces The Marines themselves will be divided, possibly in this war that will follow, and Blackbeard will rise as a greater threat to the world than anybody could have ever imagined. And the only one capable of mounting a force to fight him, Monkey D. Luffy. But anyway, guys, in conclusion, I believe that SWORD is an organization that was created in order to circumvent the authority of the Gorosei and the world government. The Marines felt that they had limits to what they could accomplish and wanted to do more. They wanted greater control. The Gorosei and the Celestial Dragons are hindrances to carrying out justice. And so they've taken it upon themselves, but in the process they have learned things that they were not expecting to, that the government never wanted them to. And what I believe that this will lead to is the Marines turning on the government. But this isn't just the good Marines. This isn't just your Kobe or your Smoker, your Garp or your Sengoku. This includes Marines like Akainu. And ultimately this is going to unintentionally cause a lot of harm. But anyway, guys, that is pretty much all I had to say today. As always, I'm curious as to what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video, subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.